Welcome to Face the Analyst. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me Dr. Quinton Henney. He is a geological advisor to Gold Canyon Resources. Gold Canyon Resources trades on the Toronto Exchange under the symbol GCU. It traded recently at around $2 a share with 89 million shares outstanding, gives it a market cap of around $180 million. Welcome, Dr. Henney, to Face the Analyst.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Really a pleasure to have you. I would like to ask you about the spring pole project, because we've seen some really interesting intersections coming out, some drill intercepts recently of well over a gram per ton over large intersections. Could you give our viewers a sense of the potential size of this gold mineralization?
Yeah, absolutely. Spring pole has a long history. It's seen quite a bit of exploration. We're focused now on a part of the system that we feel really has the meat of the ore potential. It is a large porphyry system. So in terms of size, we presently have about 950 meters strike drilled down to a depth of roughly 300 to 350 meters. The width is ranging anywhere from about 90 meters up to 150 meters. This is the true width. But we can see a lot more potential. For instance, the drilling we did at the southeast end of this series of holes this summer, the last two holes ended in, were really two of the best holes drilled on the property to date. So we see a lot more potential along strike to the southeast. And we're also seeing the system dip, plunge to the northwest underneath a historic deposit that we believe might add more potential to the system.
So what are the overall dimensions of this mineralized zone? You noted those two recent holes were the best yet. How far are they away from the more concentrated drilling that's been done in the past?
Well, they're at the southeast end of the system. We can see geologic evidence as well as some historic drill holes that were drilled further southeast that tell us there might be an additional kilometer to a kilometer and a half of strike. The overall alkaline complex, the body of rock that hosts this thing, is about 6 kilometers across. And we've really only focused on about maybe 10 or 15% of the entire complex. We're kind of concentrated in one area up in the northwest end of the system. So I feel this has a lot more upside, perhaps even ultimately district scale potential.
Wow. Well, you noted that you've drilled only down to 350 meters, I think you said.
That's correct.
Is it still in mineralization at that depth?
Yeah, it's very consistent mineralization too. It's as a geologist, it's impressive to see drill intercepts at depth that are very similar to the drill intercepts you have near surface. In other words, we don't see metal zoning that tells us that the system is dying, so we're quite hopeful that the thing will persist to depth. Ultimately we will drill some deeper holes, perhaps 500-600 meters true depth below surface, and we're optimistic that we'll see this system continue down to that level. There is some historic evidence, a few historic holes that penetrate those depths, and they see the porphyry down there.
So we're looking at 350 meters, I guess, potentially could be open pittable, perhaps, down to that level. Is the geometry appropriate for something to that depth? Or?
Well, I'll give you a little bit about the geometry. It's near vertical to dipping, say, 75 degrees southwest. So it's a pretty steep system, and it's very continuous. A lot of people have questioned our drill intercepts because our drilling this summer, for instance, was offshore, and we've had to drill the thing to deeper levels. Well, this winter, we're coming back and we're drilling the shallow holes to demonstrate continuity to surface. It's one of the few systems I know of that's actually opened up. But we are also planning to do some deeper drilling too. So yes, there is good potential for surface mining. I would say, given the configuration, there's a good chance of seeing a pit there ultimately, say a 300-meter pit, something like that. But that's only one of the things we're looking at. The thing does continue at depth.
Very interesting. Do you have a resource calculation on the spring pole yet, or
there was
not?
An historic resource calculation. Well, I take it back. It's 43101 compliant. It's just several years old at this point that was done, and it focused mainly on two of the smaller deposits within this system. So the resource at present, I believe, is about 250,000 ounces, something like that. We think the work we're doing and the part of the system we're focused on will show us a lot more upside to that. And we're quite hopeful we'll see a sizable resource once all our work is done.
Well, the 250,000 ounces would be from what sort of lateral extent? What is the dimensions of that?
Those 250,000 ounces were defined in the main zone and east extension. They're both within about 100, 150 meters of surface. And they're quite frankly, they're the small peripheral ore bodies to the larger complex. So now we've turned our sights on the big prize, and I think we'll see this thing add the true potential.
Well, Dr. Henney, I know that as a scientist, as a geologist, you're not going to step out on the branch, step out on a tree limb too far.
Yeah.
But we like to know, as investors, we like to have a sense of what could be there. So if you're telling me there's 250,000 ounces over a small part that you think is minor, if there's continuity, and I would underscore the word if, because you never know that till you put the drill holes down, but if there's continuity to 350 meters with the kind of widths you're talking about now, what kind of tonnage, what kind of potential might be there? Underscore the word might.
That's correct. Okay, we'll use the word might, and I've got to be very careful. As a geologist,
Sure.
I must be cognizant of this. I would say that presently, basically what we see is a kilometer strike, and it does come to surface. We see historic drill holes that tell us it does come to surface. Our drill holes tell us it goes to 3 to 350 meters. So we see the potential for somewhere, say, 70 to 100 million tons at a gram point X. What that grade will be, we can't say yet, and I don't want to hazard a guess, but it definitely is higher grade than a lot of the, say, bulk tonnage type systems that are being explored right now in Ontario. It also has a very, very large silver credit, which is unusual for deposits in Canada. If you look at the silver at Springpole, it's about 4 or 5 to 1 compared to the gold. So if we find a large gold system, we're actually also finding it in a very large silver system.
When we're looking forward as investors to the potential for building a mine, infrastructure is also always very,
That's
very
right.
important. Metallurgy, have you done any work on metallurgy yet?
We are doing some right now. We've actually just recently hired a metallurgist, and in fact, we're putting together a team. We've got an engineer in place now, some environmental scientists, and we are doing a lot of this work that will take it from an exploration project to a more development-oriented project. We anticipate coming out with a resource and a PEA sometime in the summer. Anyway, as part of that, the metallurgical work that we're doing will determine how this material can be treated.
Sure.
There are some things that we know already. There has been historic work on this mineralization in what's called the portage zone, the main zone we're focused on, that shows quite good recoveries by direct cyanide. So that's very encouraging. We'll do some more work to demonstrate that. We also see that the rock is quite friable. In other words, it's quite soft. This is not very hard rock like some Canadian systems. What that means is the energy that's going to have to go into it to, say, mill it, we anticipate would be quite low. So we're optimistic on that front.
And infrastructure, what about infrastructure?
Infrastructure, you bet. In terms of infrastructure, a lot of people think Northwest Ontario, they think we're out in the boonies or something like this. Give you a little bit of geography here. We are 110 kilometers northeast of the Red Lake camp. It's from the town of Red Lake or Bomberton. Okay, we have lumber roads that are within 18 kilometers of the property, and there are ways we're looking at that we could extend those roads to camp over the next couple of years. There is a power line south of us, about 22 kilometers, that goes east-west that could be tapped. These things have actually all been looked at historically. For instance, Goldfields, when they were on the property, and then Noranda have studies that show that infrastructure could be brought in quite easily.
Oh, that's very important. That's a very important issue. So are you going to have a lot of drill results coming out in the near future?
We sure will. We're drilling right now, and I believe we're on the 5th and 6th holes. There's 2 rigs turning at the moment. A 3rd will be starting here shortly. We've had to do some things, for instance, expand our camp. to accommodate this third drill, but we're getting there. We anticipate first drill results maybe mid-February.
Mm-hmm. You know, the company's share price has risen very dramatically in the last several months from, I don't know, under $1, under a half a dollar or so, up to $2. So as an investor, I'm always interested in knowing, you know, what are the risks? Aside from general stock market risk, what do you think the risks investors who buy the shares of Gold Canyon now might be looking forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question. I'll speak to several risks. You know, first of all, the obvious, like you said, the share price has run up dramatically in the past year. I believe a year ago today even, it was around 20 cents. So you can see we've had almost 10
bagger
multiple here.
Yeah.
You know, and there's going to be people who jumped in early, who obviously are going to feel they've made sufficient money and exit. But that's the trading risk, I'll say. In terms of the project and the risks involved with the project, we recognize there are several risks we face. For instance, this project, part of it lies underneath a bay of Spring Pole Lake. We've done a lot of research. In fact, a lot of work has been done in the past to study this and what it would mean for the project. We're presently doing a lot of our own homework to evaluate this and look at ways that this thing could be developed. But that's something that I feel all investors should be aware of.
Oh, sure.
It's you know, what we have right now, what we have in hand, are some historic fatal flaw studies that tell us this can be done, and we've done enough of our homework. We feel confident we can advance the project. But it's everything in life has certain uncertainty. So that's ours.
Always risks, and certainly mining and exploration companies are highly risky enterprises. However, with the risk comes the enormous potential returns as well.
That's right.
If a project works. Is there anything else you think our viewers should be aware of before we conclude our discussion?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying a little earlier. This is an exploration stage project. And because of that, we simply don't even know basic things like how deep the system goes. While it's easy to jump in and say, it looks like this will have to be an open pit, we can't say that for sure. For instance, if we drill some deeper holes, we might see the system continues down to depth, and particularly the higher grade core part of the system. If it persists to depth, this thing could actually have very good bulk underground mining potential. Right? So these are things that we're going to be looking at over time. Our drill program this winter is going to help answer a lot of those questions, but it's a project that could grow substantially. Another thing, the complex is 6 kilometers across. It is absolutely huge. As a geologist, I believe we are standing at a very high level within a Kirkland Lake type system. It's got very similar affinities to Kirkland Lake. If so, that might be telling us that there's a lot more going on at depth than we see right now. So, in other words, we've just scratched the surface.
Well, it's a very, very interesting story, Dr. Henney, and I want to thank you for sharing this with our viewers today. I'll wish you all the best in the world as you move this company forward in the exploration, and also we'll take a serious look actually for mentioning this to my subscribers in J. Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. I really thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jay.
Pleasure.